Alright guys, what's going on? So today we're going to continue with the town car, actually fixing it. So in the last video, we went ahead and we fixed the quarter panel, which actually came out way better than I thought it was going to. Looks like it came off the showroom floor, obviously. I think the guys at Lincoln would approve of this fix here. But today we're going to be actually mounting the spares vertically, trophy truck style, in the back of this thing. It's not something you would typically see on a Lincoln town car, which I think is so funny, but I think nevertheless it's going to look really, really good. So I have two of my old tires. So these are a 16x7 wheel with a 235/85/16. You can see there it is right there. And you can see they're pretty dry rotted, which is why we changed them out for these. So I'm gonna go ahead and set these vertically in the trunk. And what I'm doing right now is I'm marking a center line on the trunk so I can get them evenly spaced. Because not like this car is the straightest thing that I own, I do wanna make sure that the spares are actually centered in the trunk. They're not offset one way or the other, because that you will notice. So I just went on the trunk, have this lined up, and then it looks like over here, we'll call that 58.5. That's where that was sitting. Close enough for this car. So I'll divide that by 2, mark a center line on it. I'll take all my measurements off that from where I'm cutting. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this trunk up and get it all squared away. Alright, so I'm trying to brainstorm how I want to lay this thing out. I think this is about as low as I can get it because the gas tank's moving into the back of this car. This is supposed to normally be behind that wall. So it doesn't get punctured during a race. That was what it was originally intended for. But I could go lower. The only issue with that is I'm going to hit this rear body mount, and I don't feel like welding a new plate and moving it over just to fit the tire. And if I scoot the tire inward, my toolbox will not fit anymore. So that's kind of something I actually need to sit right there. So I'm not really sure where I want to put it and if I should modify this a little bit more. Maybe I should put that over here and then put the cooler over here. I don't really know. I think this is about where it's going to land, unfortunately. It looks cool. The downside is I cannot see a damn thing out of my back window when this thing is back there. That's really the downside about this. It does look cool though, kind of hanging out the back like that. So I like the aesthetic, but I don't know if it's actually going to be functional like I want it to. So I don't know. I'll see. Alright, well, I think I decided. I cut out the other side and I realized obviously this limp dick of a thing is not really going to do anything, so that's cool. So I'm probably just going to cut it off and then I'm just going to have a whole open back section. But luckily, the way that this is set up, it seats on the trunk gutters and the pins are right there. It doesn't latch down here anymore, so it really doesn't need any of that. So what I think I'll do is basically I'll mount the tires the way they are and I'll run a bar. I'll kind of build a little thing that sits off of this down here and make a new centerpiece that's actually a little more structural than that, and then I'll have the spares and it'll all be out of the 1/2-inch DOM that I have. So I'll just make a bunch of that, but I need to mount the tires, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this thing off and start setting the tires in, cut that thing up, and then just get them in there. Alright, so I may or may not have, I don't have enough material. That's clearly obvious. So I am welding 2 tubes together. I beveled the edges. We're gonna make this thing work, watch. So you can see I took 2 tubes, were reasonable length to try to remake this one piece that's sitting over here. So I went ahead and I beveled the edges, you can see right there. I threw a tack weld on it, and we are going to make this all work. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld this thing, and I'm not even gonna grind the welds. I don't really care that much. I think it'll add character. All right, so you'll probably notice that I cut the cross member out that goes basically from the back side of the frame rail to the back side of the frame rail. And you might be flipping out being like, Craig, what the heck? You just like literally totaled your car and bent the frame. Now the frame's gonna be a lot of whack. Well, actually it was, and now I'm fixing it, and I'll show you guys why. Before, there was like this super wavy cross member that went across, and I got stuck once in the sand, and I had Marty pull me out. And when he yanked on this thing, it had bent that cross member so bad that it had actually tweaked part of the frame rail. One side went higher than the other. So what actually I noticed is when I measured it, this side was an inch lower than that side. So the frame on this car was actually twisted because of that, the rear section was, and it was so twisted that this car actually sat kind of level to one side. So when you'd be looking at the car from an angle, the car would just kind of sit over to one side, and it was really weird looking, because at an angle, when the car was on a slope, it would be sitting straight, and you're like, wait a minute, what the heck? So it was really annoying, and it actually had to do with the rear subframe being bent. So what I did was I cut that crossmember out. It was super mangled anyways. So then what I'm doing is I'm jacking the car up to where those frame rails pieces are level, and I'm basically jacking the car up by the one side to get that frame rail bent back to where it was. I'm gonna keep doing it until the measurements are the same, and I'm gonna weld the crossbar back across the side. Alright guys, here's a little fabricating tip for you. So if you're trying to get a tube lined up perpendicular to a plate and you can't really hold it, you'll notice this tube is holding itself. So I have a jack stand wedged basically in between the tube and the plate I'm trying to put it on, and the tube is basically sitting up against the frame so it can't slide forward, and the jack is holding it from the bottom right here. So this guy is keeping it up, and then it's like, because that's such an incredible angle, it's actually trying to slide forward, but the frame won't let it. So it holds itself perfectly. So now I know I'm trying to get 43.5, which is ironically what the tube's at right now. It's a little bit off, so I can do. Tap it one way. It's not trying to move it a lot. 43.4, I'm trying to get 43.5. It's good enough for this car. Alright, so for how bent up this car is, I'm actually getting everything really straight, which is super cool. The frame's now straight, car sits straight. That wasn't like that before. And then we got this tube I laid on here. That's sitting at 0.1. It's good enough for me. 0.2, come on, you were just at 0.1, you big liar. There we go, baby, look at that. Sweet, so that means these two tubes are perfectly in line with each other. I'm gonna cut the ends off eventually, so what we're gonna do is we'll cut this, not right now, but we will cut this in the center. We'll do like a 20-degree miter cut, and then it'll be basically a straight bend over to here, and then eventually I'll cut the bottom of this quarter off too, and it'll shoot a tube all the way to the front. It'll look pretty good. So I think that looks pretty rad actually, like on the back like that, kind of hanging out. Got the spares chilling in there. Oh yeah, it's gonna look sick. Once I get the trunk cut out, this thing's gonna look freaking sweet. All right guys, so let me kind of update you how far we've got. We got a pretty good amount of progress. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. So I'm gonna show you some of this engineering that I kind of created over here. So I got the spares all mounted up in the back, the bars going across. So basically off the frame, I put a box end plate on the end of the frame right there. Welded the tube at a 45, or actually it's a 43.5 inch angle up. Notched it, ran a tube across, and then that tube lands in the same spot on this side, and then that's what the spares sit on. There's also the existing toolbox mount that I had in here. There was bars running across the trunk floor, so I went ahead and I put a little tube up there. I cut the one out and moved it back, and that's kind of gives me a cradle for the tire to sit in. So you can kind of see down here, it just kind of sits down there, and then I've welded in a bar below the frame. I am going to weld another one so I can have the back side of the frame fully boxed. That will happen. And then I went ahead and made a cooler mount. So off of that lower tube, you can see I kind of came out, and then this thing just sits in here like that. And then I'll basically now, I have Marty going to get me a bunch of eyelets. So these guys right here, which is what we mount everything else with for tie downs. These are just all thread eyelets. And what we'll do is we'll get 8 of them, and we'll put one right here. Same on the other side, one right here, other side, here, other side, and then 2 more just in case we need them anywhere else. And then we'll have straps going over the tires, over the cooler, over the toolbox, and it'll all work perfectly. And now, I have one spare space right here to where technically I can put whatever I want right there, because now the cooler's over here. It used to be over there, and my jack will still, this jack right here, will still fit in this slot right in here. So I'll have a pretty good setup back here. The only thing I don't have is any sort of lighting back here. I need to cut the original taillight panel to fit the taillight piece in there, which it's just kind of chilling over here. So I got to cut this thing up and measure it out. So I'll get that all set in. I got to fully weld everything, so I'm gonna get to it. Nice, nice. All right, guys, so after taking pretty much all the structural rigidity out of my trunk, I think this looks pretty dang good. It actually shuts now, look at that. Oh man, I can't hear a damn thing. I should really start wearing earplugs. But I got it all notched out, so you can see it fits nice and tight up here. I just had to get to the point where I can close it so I can start actually like fitting some of this stuff. So this all fits fine for now. But you can see I got to trim the corner so this doesn't rub. Inside here is a little bit tight. This is nice and loose, which is what I want. So when I put a strap on it, it'll actually hold it. This side needs to get cut here. It also needs to get cut here. And then up here, I need to do a little bit more trimming to make this corner a little bit better. But it does fit. It fits pretty well, and it looks pretty dang good. For the cooler hanging out of the back, I think that all looks really, really cool. Definitely the wildest Lincoln Town Car that I know of. I don't know of anyone better. If there is one, let me know. But and then we got the cooler mount in there. That looks pretty good the way it is. If anything, I'll probably just leave this for right now the way it is, and I'll just strap it. I'll got a hole right here, and I'll go ahead and put a stud on it and just run a bungee down to it so it doesn't flop around. But I'm not gonna go too hard this desert trip. I should be in the desert right now, so that's kind of the issue. But really, is there anything new at this point with me trying to do stuff the night before I need to go somewhere and then being late to it because I cannot seem to finish it on time? It seems like a really normal thing at this point. All right guys, so our rough design is done and welded. This is way too much work and effort for this car, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, this thing is just wild. So here's the basic layout. So you can see I got strap hooks now, right there, there, and there. So now everything that's in here will get strapped in. We got the spare tire. Toolbox goes right here in this little cubby. It sits perfectly. You can see the two eyelets for it are right there and there. So this little jack will sit right there. Spare. Ice chest, toolbox, spare, and then I have another slot over on that side. So pretty rad. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it all together real quick. I'm not gonna paint anything, I'm not gonna finish anything. I'm just gonna strap it in and get ready to go because I need to leave like ASAP. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this mess up. I got a bunch of crap ready, so I'll come back to you guys when things all buttoned up and ready to go. Alrighty, starting out the video, or finishing out the video in the desert. Check this out. Look at that unit. Jeez, dude! Nice. It's using all the bumper. Oh, yeah, she's mid. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Oh, that was pretty good. Decent. Are you trying to improve? You're using all that bumper he made, though. That's for damn sure.
Hey, I don't. He's
Your turn.
Sit on. Drag. Down car.
Dude, no shot. Dude, it would bounce so hard.
Oh no, you'll be fine.
Dude, they're so blown out.
Last one I think was bad.
Yeah, that axle hop, baby. coming.
Yeah, we're all coming.
That yet, but I welded this one up. The seam on this came out really good. And then we took the taillight panel that went all the way across the car and I cut it up and made it just kind of sink in here so the reverse lights do still work. But yeah, when I open it up, I'll show you guys how it works. Just take this little guy off. That just keeps this top part from coming down, bouncing around. I should probably fix that. It's a little cut your head off thing, little guillotine. But yeah, we have the toolbox in the back and the cooler. So I can go ahead, basically, still have a slot over there. My jack is still hiding in this corner where it was supposed to be. So you can see it all fits in there nicely. And then I can literally just go like this. I do that, take whatever I want out of it, pop it out. You can see how it all kind of goes together and you can see the toolbox fits in there nicely. So I can take anything out I need. I can just pop it right back in. And then run the strap down. It's done. And then I just shut it and we're good to go. And then I can pop the spares out just as easily. So I'm really happy with it. It came out really good. I still got to brace this. I think I'm going to weld some tubes all the way around it, make it a little more structurally sound. But I kept the Town Car logo. That's something I definitely wanted to do. So but yeah, you can go ahead and close it up. It's a little bit ghetto to close without cutting your hand, but it works. I don't know, I've definitely gotten a lot of crazy looks out in the desert this weekend with this thing, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm super stoked with it. I hope you guys went on to enjoy and learn a thing or two. Leave a like if you did enjoy. Go ahead and check out our hat shirts and stickers and go grab yourself something. And yeah.